Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Kenneth Alexander, Mayor of the City of Norfolk, and General André Lanata, NATO's Supreme Allied Commander Transformation.
Thank you again. Thank you, General Lanata. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here for this very important resilience conference here in the city of Norfolk. I'm happy to be with my good friend, General Lanata, and many other generals and admirals, ambassadors from across the private, public, civic sectors to understand the risk and vulnerability of global threats that we may face together. We're interdependent. Norfolk is a laboratory for understanding resilience. We're the global Center for Commerce. We're the global Center for Security. We will continue to be resilient against global threats, attacks, incidents, and cyber intrusion, cybersecurity, on our structures, our institutions, our people, and our systems. I look forward to your questions, and again, thank you for being here.
A few words, if I may. Dear Kenneth, Mayor of the City of Norfolk, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us at the 2019 Resilience Conference. This conference is hosted, as you know, between the City of Norfolk and my command, ACT. On April 4th, our command helped commemorate 70 years of NATO, the most successful military alliance in the world for almost the entirety of that time. Since 1952, NATO has had a home in Norfolk, Virginia, thanks to the City of Norfolk also. Our command is the only strategic command in North America, and we sincerely appreciate the closeness and hospitality of our American friends. NATO is operating in a constantly evolving and unpredictable geostrategic environment when like-minded nations joined together as a political military alliance in 1949. The threats that were faced from the East were radically different than the wide spectrum of challenges and potential adversaries we are facing today. Crisis knows no border, and today's security environment is unpredictable. Threats can come from state and non-state actors and do not recognize boundaries like terrorism and other asymmetric threats, cyber attacks, and hybrid warfare. Since the early 15th, NATO has had an important role in supporting and promoting civil preparedness among allies. In fact, although most news coverage of NATO focuses on Article 5 of our founding treaty, an armed attack against one or more of them in Europe or North America shall be considered as an attack against them all. The principle of resilience is set out in Article 3, which requires all allies to maintain and develop their individual and collective capacity to resist armed attack. In 2016, allies committed to enhancing resilience. NATO now has 7 baseline requirements that assist us in our collective capacity: assured continuity of government and critical government services, resilient energy supplies, ability to deal effectively with uncontrolled movement of people, resilient food and water resources, ability to deal with mass casualties, resilient civil communication systems, resilient civil transportation systems. In other words, each NATO member country must be resilient in order to withstand shocks like critical infrastructure failure, military attack, and natural disasters. Allied command transformation provides the value added for the alliance in transforming its capabilities to respond to challenges and threats of today and tomorrow. We serve as the Warfare Development Command, a command that prepares NATO for every eventuality and provides by design end-to-end coherence of the NATO military instruments. And resilience is a necessary component of that instrument. When a shocking event occurs, response must be holistic, systematic, and well prepared. Look no further than the effects of Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans in August 2005, cyber attacks on Estonia 2007, Boston Marathon bombings in April 2013, terrorist attack in Paris in November 2015, and Gatwick Airport drone incident last December, to only mention few examples. Our conference today intends to focus on command responses to these types of events. Our discussions will cover a breadth of activities but will be anchored on resilience against a terrorist attack in an hybrid and urban environment context, which appears critical because it is more vulnerable and also more complex to protect. The potential effects of terrorist actions can be devastating and multiple. It may be experienced at many interrelated levels, individually and collectively, but may also have wider socio-economic effects. No one standalone instrument of power or institution cannot adequately respond to threats or crises formed from hybrid warfare or terrorist activities. As such, I am pleased to be joined by federal, state, and municipal leaders from across the United States, NATO national authorities, NATO, the European Union representative, as well as many think tanks, academics, and private sector entities. ACT and the Alliance have an interest in organizing our collective response so that it can assess potential vulnerabilities or gaps and accurately measure progress. Together, we intend to collaborate, innovate, and remain at the forefront of technological change in order to best protect our citizens and better our ability to respond to unexpected shocks. This conference should also allow us to debate on the impact of emerging technologies on our level of resilience. These technologies should be assessed as well from different perspectives, new vulnerabilities, but also opportunities. Thank you once again for joining us at the 2019 Resilience Conference, and I'm looking forward to your questions.
Thank you, General Lanata. Thank you, Mayor Alexander. We can now take your questions.
I'm Mike. I'm Mike. I work for the ABC station here in Norfolk. I guess I'm interested in a broader question, and that is, when we talk about anti-terrorism, we're trying to prevent terrorism. When we talk about counterterrorism, I guess we're talking about reacting to terrorism after it's happened. In the world in which we live, where there are bad actors out there, we'd like to hope and wish and think that, well, maybe it'll never happen, but that would be foolish, right? We need to be ready for the eventuality, the inevitability that at some point, some Boston Marathon event is going to happen again. We'd like to hope it's not. I guess I'm asking what you think the inevitability is.
So Mike, thanks for the question. So we can't wait to something bad to happen. That's number one. We're building resilience. We're building redundancies. We understand that we are at risk. We are the center here in Hampton Roads of global security, with the largest naval station in the world, with the NATO's only North American presence is here in Norfolk. We understand that waiting to something to happen, it's too late. So part of the conversation is, one, to acknowledge that we're interdependent. Number two, that we on the public sector and many times the private sector, we deliver energy. We deliver transportation systems. We deliver food and medicine. We have the hospital if there's a mass casualty. As it relates to security, we support the military operations. If there's a failure on our power grid, if there's a failure in our ability to move people, and if our structures are compromised, it will hurt and compromise the military readiness. And so it's not a matter if we can't be prepared for the stressors and the shocks and the disruptions, is when will they happen and what's our response?
If I may, we should recognize that our security environment has changed. Such attack has already happened, and it will probably happen again. It doesn't mean we do not prepare to prevent them. Of course, all our services do their best to prevent those attacks. But we should also be prepared to face if this kind of event occurs. And it is the reason why we work together, because as the mayor said, we should partner to give to our military forces their freedom to operate. And we need this resilience. In all the different examples I gave you, to restore the situation, military forces have been involved. And so it shows that we need to work together to identify not only new threats, but also new vulnerabilities of our societies, especially facing using more efficient technologies, more efficient but sometimes more vulnerable, and we need to cooperate to address this very huge challenge we cannot address by ourselves. We should, as a NATO responsible, we should consider resilience as our first line of defense, because it is a part of our deterrence.
Thank you both. Do you have a follow-up on that, or?
One more. How's it going? I'm Brendan. I'm a reporter at WTKR, the CBS station here in Hampton Roads. Just specifically, how are you preparing during this conference? You know, what specific discussions are you having? Are you talking about a specific scenario, for example, and how you would respond? Can you just kind of elaborate, you know, what's being done here in this conference?
Thanks for the question. So a lot of collaboration. You know, we understand that you could have all the processes, all the procedures, but and you can have all the technology and all of the systems and all of the mechanisms. But what's important is people, human behavior. And so what's coming out of this conference is not only having those procedures in place, the redundancies and the contingencies in place, but General Lanata and I and those who are here, we understand that part of what we have to factor in is human behavior. There's an actor, and in today's environment, you could have a nation state as an actor, but you're going to have an individual as an actor who could commit a cyber attack or so on. And the last thing I would say, without the collaboration, those procedures and those policies could very well be inefficient, could be null and void. And so part of what you will see, General Lanata and I will continue to have collaboration so that we can better understand the risk, the threat that we face as a city, but more importantly, as our allied nations also face as a collective group.
Maybe different points. ACT is is in Norfolk, and it makes a long time we cooperate together, not only in this specific area, but also, and you will see that at the NATO festival at the end of April. But also we want to work together to address critical security issue we cannot address by alone. We need to cooperate together, because in this specific resilience conference, we identify the need to work together with civilian authorities and military authorities to find the best way to address such a critical scenario. We choose a terrorist attack linked with a cyber attack. It is a way to have the broadest view on what could be the impact on our resilience. It is a scenario. It doesn't mean we will face that in the future. This is just a scenario to share ideas and to see what kind of solution we need to put in place on both sides. And I say on both sides. I would say also with other multinational organizations. We invite EU, UN, with the private sector also. We need industry, as industry is part of this question. So to answer your question, it makes a long time we work together. It's not the first resilience conference we organize together. It is now the second one. We learned from the first one. We now need to continue to understand what could be the impact of that kind of scenario and to put in place concrete actions in order to be more robust. As I said already, I am convinced as a NATO authorities that resilience is the first line of defense of our society.
Thank you. We have time for one very, very last quick question and probably a quick answer as well. Thank you, Mike.
What about natural disasters? If we get sea level rise or if we get a hurricane, Hampton Boulevard's underwater, 60,000 Navy guys can't get to the base every day, and however many thousand NATO guys can't get to NATO headquarters every day, and nobody can do their job. Are there best practices we can learn from our European friends to create resiliency as far as transportation?
Of course, yes. Thank you for that question, Mike. You know, as a coastal city, that is both the center for global commerce and global security, Norfolk is at risk of both rising sea levels and global tensions. And so coastal storms are becoming more frequent and more powerful. And just over the past years, we have seen single rain drops, 8 or more inches of water. And so we're learning from the Netherlands, and we are offering Norfolk as a laboratory to help other cities to understand how to live with water, how to be more resilient in the face of coastal storms and sea level rise.
Maybe one point. Of course, it is also a concern among other scenarios we can face, and we invite authorities from New Orleans to learn from their experience, because we need that. The other point is in all the past events. All the past events shows that military people were involved to support the recovery of the situation. And so we need also to work on how we can involve on the best way our military force to restore the situation. It is a question of equipments to work on the best way, interoperability with security forces, and all that stuff which need to be also addressed on the same way.